Hey everybody, it's Scotty from Scotty's Record Shop with an artist profile slash tribute. Before I get into that, like I always try to do, remember to do at the beginning of each video, is I want to thank everybody who's subscribing. Over 200 people now, which is really, I don't get it, but I thank you. And something like 7,000 people, 17,000 people watch these videos, which even makes less sense to me. But I'm glad that you're enjoying what I'm trying to do here. Not really feeling all that great. Not to get into it because this isn't the place or time, but so this I'm going to try to blow through this fairly quickly just because I don't have a lot of energy. But this is an artist profile slash tribute to Linda Ronstadt, who thank God didn't pass away, but ended up announcing that she had Parkinson's disease a short time ago, and that has completely robbed her of her ability to sing, which is really a tremendous loss to the industry. She had such a beautiful voice, almost 50 years worth of music. I'm going to do her solo stuff primarily. I didn't go out and rush buy any Linda Ronstadt to make this video or anything. This is just stuff I have because I love her music, and always have. Trying to get this thing even. There you go. Okay, we're going to start. First of all, there were 3 albums by Stone Pony, the band she was in from '67 and '68, and they're good albums. I don't have them on vinyl. The one album that everybody seems to want to get is an album called Evergreen, the second album, because that has the song Different Drum, which was the first really commercial successful thing Linda Ronstadt ever did. Excuse me. It's driving me nuts. So let's go back to 1969. I'll show you, not that the first few albums have really any inserts, but I'll explain about the labels too. She was on Capitol. The Stone Pony albums were on Capitol as well. But her first quote-unquote solo album came in 1969, and it's called Homespun. Look how young she is on that. And this is a second pressing, and I'll show you what I mean by a second pressing. It's on this Capitol label right here. Still a really great pressing. I'm not sure if any of these older albums are still in print. I would think that these are all in print, at least on CD. And there's some great compilations of this early stuff as well. I'll show you one of them when I get to it. This next one, an interesting cover. Silk Purse. Linda with a bunch of pigs. There's that, and then and this was, I believe, 1970. Again on that Capitol. This is a second pressing of that. Yeah. Her third album, simply entitled Linda Ronstadt. Right around this time, too, she had a backup band with a bunch of people that would end up being famous. A guy named Don Henley, a guy named Glenn Frey, band that would basically become the Eagles. Not necessarily on this album. I'm trying to remember which album it was that they did a lot of backing work on. Again, not the original label. I've had these for a long time, but they were gotten in the 70s. This next album, I actually have a question for you guys. Actually, for people that have a clue, I'll show you. This is her next album. Yeah. But this is not on. It's not on Capitol. Here's the inner sleeve for that. Way back when, those are what headphones used to look like. The old cans. We used to call them cans. Anyway, I think the question that I have is, on this, she would eventually go to Asylum, but for a one-op album, she was on Asylum back in like 1973. And then she would go back to Capitol for a little bit more. I don't get why that happened. And I'll show you another really weird thing about that relationship with her and Asylum and her relationship with um, Capitol in a little bit. 1974, this is the album that really, really broke her. Heart Like a Wheel, 1974. Had this album for a long time. Again, this is the original pressing now on this one for that. And I don't remember if this had an actual, yeah, it did have an inner sleeve. Guy named Andrew Gold, who I had some communication with quite a bit actually before he passed away, who had a few hits of his own, did a lot of the instrumentation. He was on this album. And his band at that time that he had put together was backing her up and would do so for a couple of years actually. Okay. Prisoner in Disguise. The next album. We go with the inners for that. Gatefold. Kind of getting into her quote-unquote prime period. This would be, finally she would switch over to Asylum for that album. Just get it back in here. Okay. We're getting into the really, major hit period for her. Classic, kind of a classic period. This is a period that I absolutely love of hers. Okay. Okay, what is this? Hasten the Wind. Oh, yeah. That's what this one is. Don't mind me, I'm kind of out of it. Like I said, I'm not feeling all that great, but I wanted to do some kind of a tribute to her. Gatefold as well. You can't go wrong with these albums, and they're quite inexpensive too, and a lot of times I see these all the time in dollar bins. I don't know if that'll change now that she's passed away. Simple lyric sleeve on the Asylum label. There we go. You can see that. Okay. It's kind of weird how record values go up and down and stuff. It kind of drives me nuts. But Simple Dream. Again, these are all on the Asylum label now. I do believe Yep just does have an inner sleeve. Very, very nice inner sleeve too. Thank you very much. Linda. And lyrics on the back. And I should be checking, Yep, this is where the custom stuff starts coming in, the labels. Custom labels. 1977 for that one, by the way. Move on to 1978. Linda Ronstadt was really well known. It kind of almost was a slam at the time, but a lot of people referred to her as the cover queen. She covered a lot of songs by a lot of different people. Of course, covering Chuck Berry for the title track of this one, Living in the USA. She covered so many people. But you know what she did? Buddy Holly. Trying to think of all the other people she covered, and I'm having brain cramps, but irregardless of the fact that she was covering a lot of people's material, it was still great stuff. Classic picture of her. And like I said, we're getting into some custom labels here for her. She took a break. At least we didn't get an album from her in 1979. We got an album from her in 1980, and she went from being kind of covering a lot of 50s and 60s retro people to becoming much more aggressive on this album. Almost, I don't want to say punky, because I don't want to give you the wrong impression in a way, but this is an album called Mad Love, 1980. But it just had a harder edge to it at points, I think. And I'll be honest with you, when I first heard this album, I was expecting another Living in the USA. This is just a pink sleeve, and this did not have a custom label. But I was used to, getting used to the sound that she had, and quite honestly, when this first came out, I was like, oh boy. But I enjoy this album now. So, again, a really easy album to find. Her last in the string of pop rock albums, 1981, Get Closer. I don't know if you can see. I'm going to try to get this. but her dress is a metallic pinkish reddish. It's really kind of cool how that is in that picture, and the earrings and everything. Back cover. Almost looks like this was originally meant to be a gatefold that you opened up like this and saw her entirely. I don't know if that was an original plan or not, but the inner sleeve, that, lyrics on the back, and the custom inner. Like I said, last pop rock album she did, she was so versatile. She decided to do something really different. By the way, this loads from the top. Just, you know, kind of goes back to that Hall & Oates video that we did. You know, most of the time they load from the side, but this one loads from the top. She got together with Nelson Riddler and decided to put out standards for like 3 albums. And I found out about this through my mother because I wasn't going to pick it up. My mother wanted it really bad. I bought it for my mom, and I said, okay, I'll try the cassette, Mom. I'm going to listen to it. And I fell in love with it. This is an incredible album. You've got to be in the right mindset for it. It's standard. You're going to be driven back into the 40s with this. But what an absolutely fantastic album from her. And custom label for that as well. Let me do this at the... no, there you go. So that's that. Like I said, she'd do 3 albums with Nelson Riddler like that. I think it was 83, 84, and 86. This is the next one that she'd do. This is the last of the actual albums that I have of her original stuff. This has got a really neat, and this lifts up like this. I'm getting this really good. I'm messing this cover up already, but here you've got the cover, and this lifts off like this. And that's the inner. Then you have lyrics on the back side. Of course, and then you have a custom label again. I don't have the rest of her albums that came out in the 80s, at least on vinyl. So I wasn't going to just rush out and buy them just to make this video. I wanted to show you what I had, period. Let's go back. Here's the greatest hits, 1976 for this one. Okay, I've got a sealed copy of both of these greatest hits, which I'm not going to obviously open up for the video, but this is a little tattered and torn. I've had it for years. It plays well, but inner sleeve for that one. Now here's the interesting thing. All of these songs, for the most part, were from her Capitol years, and yet here we go again. Asylum. I don't get, anybody can understand how that licensing thing happened, how she was able to get away with that. I would really appreciate that. Her last one, 2 more actually, I'm sorry. Greatest Hits Volume 2, this came out in 1980. Lyrics on the inner side. On the back. You can buy a comp now that has both of these on one CD. Which is an interesting, it's a good collection. Again, this is on the Asylum. It's got a plain sleeve, nothing special. One more to show you. It actually, Capitol came back and said, well, wait a minute, I guess, all these people are, Asylum's issuing our stuff, and, well, maybe we should. So we get this double album, retrospective is what it's called. It's a double album. Our stuff. This is a great album, overlooking all of the, including Stone Pony stuff. And there's no custom sleeves, no, oh wait a minute, we have custom innards on here. Yeah, we do. And this is just for a lesson, this is a later pressing, this is an 80s pressing. Early 80s, late 70s, early 80s pressing of this album. So, put that back in here, get it near you. So anyway, and let me show you the other thing. That's the other insert. And again, the later Capitol. I like that label. I've always liked that purple Capitol label. Alrighty, that is my little tribute to the career of Linda Ronstadt. I'm curious to see what she comes up with next, even though she can't sing. She's a very talented lady. And on behalf of all of our fans, me being one of them, just one, we wish you the best, whatever you do. You know, but any questions, comments, especially about that interplay between Capital and Asylum, if you've got some answers for me, I'd really appreciate you putting them down there or sending me a PM or whatever. Alrighty. Until next time, everybody. Peace and love.